yeah, Sonic Frontiers, baby. The game that answered all our prayers. If you're a longtime Sonic fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The past decade has been filled with simplistic boost gameplay, corny dialogue, bad jokes, chronic mischaracterization of some of our favorite cartoon animals. It's been torture. But all that is behind us now. We're officially in a new era. And that's not me being overdramatic. Sega, and specifically Takashi Iizuka, have made it clear in interviews that Sonic Frontiers is meant to be the blueprint, the foundation from which the next 10 to 20 years of Sonic games will be built upon. Now, this is sort of a vague statement. Does this mean that the next game will have the same large open zones, a similar method of mystery-focused storytelling? Will we continue to focus on the Ancients, the origin of the Chaos Emeralds, and the enigmatic antagonist, the End? I plan on tackling all these possibilities here today as I comb through everything we know, the lore from Frontiers, all the interviews, press releases, marketing, and even the brand strategies across the Sonic franchise as a whole. When I'm done, I think I'll have a pretty good picture of where the blue blur is headed next. So join me in predicting the next Sonic game. First things first, let me lay down some groundwork. If we want to know where the story is headed, we will need to cover what we're working with. And there is a lot. In Frontiers, we got some pretty heavy lore drops. To summarize, the Chaos Emeralds actually originated on a different planet, inhabited by a race of beings known only as the Ancients. These Ancients were a highly advanced civilization fleeing the End, an infinite, all-encompassing force of entropy only interested in destruction. These Ancients actually died out eventually, leaving behind their digital dimension known as cyberspace and the Coco, small stone trinkets that housed echoes of their spirits and memories. The Ancients were attracted to Earth by the Master Emerald, which was already here. It seems what few Ancients did survive eventually evolved into the Chow. Chaos, the mysterious watery being and the primary antagonist from Sonic Adventure 1, is actually not what we thought he was. We always assumed that he was a Chow that mutated during exposure to the Chaos Emeralds, but actually, he was the last of the Ancients that hadn't evolved into the small, Coco-like Chow. Yeah, all that. And that's just the lore. Story info from the past. We were also introduced to Sage, the AI creation of Eggman, given form in the world of cyberspace, who sacrificed herself to stop the End's explosion from damaging the Earth. She was likely saved by a backup of some kind by Eggman, although it's unclear whether or not this is the same version of Sage we interacted with throughout the game. Morio Kishimoto, the game's director, has stated on Twitter that the loading icon seen throughout the game is actually a representation of Sage's soul. It begins as a simple triangle, only 3 sides, but as she interacts more with the characters, witnessing Sonic's tenacity and willingness to help his friends, along with Eggman's gradual growing affection for her, the shape becomes more and more complex, and she begins to not only trust others, but advocate that Eggman and Sonic work together. In-game, we see this with her model slowly glitching more and more blue instead of red. Visually, we are watching her soul evolve as hope overtakes her cynicism and despair. The reason I bring this up is because we don't get to see what Sage looks like in the post-credit scene where Eggman saves her. While it's possible that he was able to restore her totally, I think it's more likely that this is an earlier version of her, probably a backup of the AI Eggman had before he ever entered cyberspace and Sage was given form. This could mean a lot of things, but before we get to that, I want to talk about something else. Something bigger and much more moon-shaped. The End is probably the most mysterious and enigmatic antagonist we've ever gotten in a Sonic game, but more mystery means more story opportunities, so I'm certainly not complaining. Now, the majority of the information we get about this thing is from the secret final boss battle that's only accessible if you enter into the fight with Supreme while the game is on hard difficulty mode. After Sage overtakes the body of Supreme, the two of you fly into space and begin a brutal Galaga-style shooter level in the same vein as the hacking minigames from Oranos Island. As you slowly chip away at the enormous health bar of this big purple moon, it monologues to you. And this is what it says. Mortal, you have served your purpose. Now face your end. I am the all-consuming void. What can one mote of golden light illuminate within the abyss? Countless stars, countless worlds, countless lives, all fell to me, all brought to nothing. All the teeming chaos of creation brought to order, to neutrality, to nothing. I saw your mind as you ran through my prison. You have fought machines and gods. They were mighty. They were finite. I am infinite. I am nothing. You struggle as so many have done before. You will be consumed like all those before you. I saw your mind. Your courage never wavered. Why? Arrogance? Ignorance? Stupidity? I was contained once. Once. Is that why? My captors bent time and space. My captors built a whole reality to contain me. My captors burnt their souls away to fuel their engines. And you? You glitter. You fly about me like a gnat. I am inevitable. I cannot be denied. You strike this incarnation with all your might, and it changes nothing. You are not brave. You are not victorious. No matter what form I take, the end comes for you all. Damn. But there's a lot we can take from that. First of all, the end is not a machine or a god or really even a being. It's a concept. More specifically, the concept of an ending. I believe it is the heat death of the universe personified. Little science lesson for you. All things in the universe are made up of either matter, energy, or both. As energy is expended, more and more things become only matter. Like a lit candle, it gives off energy in heat and light for a little while. But eventually the candle burns away and you're just left with the matter, wax and smoke, nothing else. This is something that will happen to everything in the whole universe. Eventually our sun and every star will completely burn up, running out of energy, so that they will no longer give off any heat or light. At some point, billions and billions of years in the future, every star will go dim and the entire universe will be cold and dark. The end is that, the concept of the heat death of the universe given consciousness. That's why it takes the form of a moon, the thematic opposite of the sun, a cold, dead rock floating through space, a reminder of what everything will eventually become. And that's why it taunts Supersonic, a golden spark that won't go out. Supersonic represents the sun. As long as he doesn't give up, his spark doesn't go out, then he is disproving the very concept of the end. It's actually really cool. By winning the fight, he both physically and metaphysically defeats the end. Now, all that said, I don't think the end is really gone. I'm pretty sure it will be showing up again in future games as the true big bad, the final enemy, the origin of every villain Sonic ever has or ever will fight. But how? We saw that moon get blowed up real good, better than when Eggman did it in Sonic Adventure 2. Well, pay special attention to these two lines. You strike this incarnation with all your might. No matter what form I take, the end comes for you all. Incarnation. We know the end is a concept given form, not unlike Sage. Hey, it's almost like this game is actually really well written or something. But my point is, the purple moon thing is just a body that the end has created in order to interact with the physical world. It's totally possible that the end is still out there, a concept roaming the universe, and with time it will be able to incarnate again, either as this purple space rock or as something else. A black hole would be really cool. Not to mention, in the cutscene where Sonic finally saves his friends and inadvertently releases the end from cyberspace, we see this glitch effect cross the whole screen, but never actually see the body of the end. The glitch effect lets us know that it's out. And in the final cutscene where Eggman saves Sage, that exact same glitch effect crosses the screen. Sage died by colliding with the end. It's possible that if Eggman were able to revive this version of Sage, he, just like Sonic saving his friends, accidentally let out the end while saving Sage. Either way, I highly suspect that the end will return as an antagonist. But on the flip side, as protagonists go, I think we're going to have quite a few. First of all, Sonic. That's a given. I don't think I need to explain that. Sage, like I said, I think it's pretty clear that she'll be returning as one of the heroes next time. That leads us to Tails, Knuckles, and Amy. One of the biggest praises for Frontiers was how well these characters were handled compared to their boring, one-dimensional, flanderized versions we've come to know over the past 10 years. But beyond that, the game went out of its way to not only give these characters arcs, but set up new goals for them going forward after they leave the Starfall Islands. Whether they'll be playable or not, I think it's very evident that Knuckles, Tails, and Amy will each have their own stories in the next installment, and this is what I think they'll look like. Starting with Amy, she was really moved during their time on Kronos Island, bringing together the two Coco who had been searching for each other. After pondering this, she decides that she wants to, quote, help spread love throughout the world. I think this makes her future mission the most altruistic, but also the most vague. If I had to guess, her story will revolve around traveling the world, looking for people in need of help. Once she discovers someone who needs it, that will be the focus of her story. If you remember, this is exactly what she ended up doing in Sonic Adventure, keeping the Flicky safe. I imagine she'll have a friend with her, probably Cream, but maybe one of the recently, astoundingly canonized characters like Tangle or Styx. Moving on to Knuckles, his discussions with Sonic really made it clear that his life protecting the Master Emerald is one of solitude. He wants freedom and he wants companionship. And oh boy, does that make this one easy. Rouge. I think for the first time, we're gonna get an extended story with Knuckles and Rouge working together. There have been obvious teases about their relationship in the past, but think about it. In this game, Knuckles has been restored to his original self, gullible but not stupid. He's actually very knowledgeable about the history of his clan, the Emeralds, and the culture and architecture of ancient civilizations. Pair him up with Rouge, who spent time treasure hunting, and it's made her exceptionally skilled, and you have a perfect duo to explore the history of the ancients, uncovering all the secrets that eluded us in Frontiers. Knuckles gets to leave Angel Island and explore more of the world, all with the excuse of learning more about history of the Emeralds, and he doesn't have to do it alone. I think this one is a slam dunk. And finally, Tails. This one's pretty easy too. Sonic and Eggman are essentially opposites, but Tails acts as a foil for both of them. He's got a good heart like Sonic, but he's got the brains to rival Robotnik. With his newfound resolve to pave his own path, stepping out of Sonic's shadow, I think what we're about to see is a reflection of Eggman's typical story. Most Sonic plots begin with Eggman researching and discovering some ancient or foreign power, which he then utilizes to attempt world conquest. But what if Tails takes the initiative this time? What if Tails is the one who does the research, uncovers some hidden secret of the world, and tries to capitalize on it? He could flip the script, with his story being about saving a civilization that's been trapped or restoring life to a long-dead region. He could butt heads with Eggman directly, the two of them in a struggle to utilize this newfound force for either good or for evil. So yeah, we've got Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and Sage. But I think there's one more. I think Shadow will play a big role in the next title for a lot of reasons. But to prove it, we need to apply our tinfoil hats. It's conspiracy theory time. Brand synergy is a concept that marketing departments use in order to better relate to customers. If a toothpaste company is pushing their new mint flavor on TV and on Facebook, they're not going to advertise their old cinnamon flavor on Instagram. They want you to be thinking of their new mint flavor whenever you see ads for this company. That's brand synergy. It's how these marketers get you excited about the new thing they have to offer across all options. I theorize that Knuckles was added into Sonic Frontiers later than all the other characters, and I think this was done in order to create brand synergy with Sonic Movie 2. Here's my evidence. For one thing, Knuckles isn't on the tornado at the beginning of the game. He made his way to the Starfall Islands on his own. If you don't watch the animated prequel on YouTube, it would seem really odd that he just happened to also get trapped in this specific place at the exact same time as the other characters. I think he was added in late, and the prequel was their way of explaining it without having to change all of the already recorded dialogue and animations and all that from the opening cutscenes and the other two islands. This makes even more sense when you consider that Sonic Frontiers was delayed. It was originally meant to come out around Christmas 2021, on the 30th anniversary year of Sonic. This would have led right into Sonic Movie 2 coming out just a few months later. The movie which heavily promoted Knuckles. In fact, in Japan, the movie was advertised as Sonic vs. Knuckles. Still don't believe me? Frontiers is the very first game to show Sonic with blue lightning and glowing blue eyes when he reaches top speed. This is a design element from the movies. It's never been in the games before. It's clear that this is one aspect where Sega is really interested in brand synergy, making Sonic and his abilities recognizable to the average audience member regardless of where you saw him last. That's also why this game canonized characters from Boom and the comics. Synergy. Sega is really interested in brand synergy right now. Unfortunately, that synergy took a little bit of a hit as Frontier's release was delayed about a year, coming out 9 months or so after the movie. But it makes their intentions clear. So, what does all this have to do with Shadow? Well, Sonic Movie 3 was announced before Sonic Movie 2 even came out, and it was released with this graphic, showing the black and red branding on the 3. Combine that with the stinger at the end of the last movie, Shadow is coming in the third film. With a Shadow-centric movie scheduled for December 2024, and how interested Sega is in keeping brand synergy with all the elements of the Sonic franchise, I think it's obvious that the sequel to Sonic Frontiers is aiming for a 2025 release, and it will heavily feature Shadow. Not enough evidence? Consider that Iizuka was asked about Shadow and why he isn't in Frontiers. He said that Shadow is one of his favorite characters, Sonic Adventure 2 is his favorite game in the whole series, and he really wants to bring him into future installments. And finally, in the Eggman memos you can access from Big's Fishing, Eggman spends some time pondering his cousin, Maria Robotnik. He never really knew her all that well, but he thinks that maybe Sage is a lot like her. Think about it! Sage is also the daughter of a Robotnik. Imagine her potential interactions with Shadow. They share the same color palette, and in Sage's more hopeful blue form, her dress and eyes, they're the same color as Maria's. I think they are planting the seeds for a Shadow and Sage story in the next game. Oh man, okay, cool. Let me just, okay. So, we've got all the characters down. What about the story? Well, with how much this game leaned into continuity, referencing and canonizing so much from the last 30 years of Sonic, I think they'll double down going forward. Expect to see more cameos and references to tertiary characters. I'm talking Mighty, Jet, Metal, Blaze. If Ian Flynn is coming back, and I really think he is after the tremendous fan reception of his inclusion in Frontiers, then we are getting much more of these fan favorite characters. And beyond that, I think the story will build more on older lore. In this game, we got insight into the history of the Chaos Emeralds, Chaos, the Chow, and the world before the Echidna tribe. Looking forward, I think the story will build off of the Black Arms, the Gaia Temples, and the Wisps. I picked these three specifically because I think the focus will primarily be on the antagonist, the End. Coming from space, the antithesis to the Chaos Emeralds, it's likely these elements of the Sonic world will be tied together as we learn more about this great evil. I think most likely, and I know this is crazy, but I think we'll see Sonic and Co. going into space, perhaps visiting other planets in a bid to find the true source of the end and put a stop to it for good. Remember, the Ancients were brought to Earth because the Chaos Emeralds were drawn to the Master Emerald. Why was the Master Emerald here already? Why were they drawn together? Are there more emeralds out there somewhere? We're poised to learn the answer to all of these questions next time. So, let's summarize everything so far. The next game is very likely going to be a lore-heavy, story-focused journey. We'll have a handful of protagonists, each with their own separate stories: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Sage, and Shadow. The final boss is likely to be the End in its true form, a godlike being that puts everything we know in jeopardy. Yeah, that's right. I have put all the pieces together for you. If you haven't guessed it yet, hold on to your butts. I think the next game after Sonic Frontiers will be Sonic Adventure 3. I know, but hear me out. Sonic Adventure 3 has been the fanbase's pipe dream for over 2 decades now, and technically, both Sonic 06 and Unleashed are spiritual successors to the Adventure series, making an SA3 pointless. But I don't care! No one does! We want that shiny, sparkling, curvaceous numeral. We want Sonic Adventure 3, and so does Iizuka! In an interview this year, he stated that Sega will make Sonic Adventure 3 someday, and he already knows what the game after Frontiers will be, but he can't tell anyone yet. Not to mention that SA2 is his favorite in the franchise and the best game he's worked on, and with how much Adventure 1 lore was referenced and foundational to the stories of Frontiers, or how much brand synergy Sega would get from releasing Sonic Adventure 3 right after Sonic Movie 3, it's time. It's happening. Sound the alarm, grab your chili dogs, it's happening.
Oh yeah! This is happening!
I wouldn't have believed it either. I gave up on the hope for Adventure 3 about 5 years ago. If you told me last year that all the incredible music, supersonic boss fights, characterization, and lore in Frontiers, I would have laughed in your face. And yet, here we are. Sega listened, and they are still listening. Morio Kishimoto has said on his Twitter that Sonic Team is listening closely to the fans and critics about our thoughts on Frontiers, treating it as a playtest for future games. So if anything I've said so far, or that I say later in the video, reads to you like the Christmas list of a crazy fanboy, it is, because that's the playbook that we, the fans, have been writing for Sonic Team for years now. Our wishes are exactly what they're using to shape the future of this franchise, and nothing is more in demand from this franchise than Sonic Adventure 3. You know it, I know it, hell, Iizuka knows it, and he agrees. So, with all that said, what will Sonic Adventure 3 look like? I think we're sticking with open zones, which is honestly a great move. They could stand to be a little less barren, but the concept is golden. They're a ton of fun to explore and run around. It's likely that instead of the cyberspaces, we'll see those replaced with mandatory boost-style action stages in the same vein as Sonic Adventure. Imagine Station Square with the various levels you can access, but getting between them is the large open zone style gameplay from Frontiers. Different environments will be more or less accessible depending on the character. I can see playing an open zone with Knuckles, who can not only glide and climb, but can dig to search for things in that massive open sandbox. Perhaps if Sage is playable, she will have unique digital worlds to explore, taking the shooter-style gameplay in the vein of E102 Gamma, or Tails and Eggman from SA2. We can certainly expect more supersonic boss battles, as they are probably the most universally praised aspect of Frontiers save for the music. Big, exciting, cinematic clashes with powerful enemies, but it might not just be Sonic this time. We know Shadow often goes super, but what if we got Knuckles too? Super Knuckles. It's been quite a while since we've seen it in-game, but he did reference transforming into Super Knuckles in Frontiers. And I'm sure with how much it's been requested, we'll get a boss rush mode, or at least the opportunity to replay our favorite fights once we've beaten them. As far as combat goes, the cool anime-esque abilities are likely to stay, perhaps with a bigger skill tree. It's likely we'll see more diverse environments too. Snowy zones, jungles, canyons, underwater. The possibilities are endless. Oh, and Chow Garden, obviously. Iizuka has stated that it is by far the most requested gameplay element he gets from fans, and this is an adventure title. It just has to happen. They even teased it in Frontiers. Sonic said the Starfall Islands aren't the right climate for it. Hilarious. Now for a couple ideas of my own. I don't think these are necessarily likely to happen, but I would sure love it if they did. First, unlockable or hidden character customizations. Different outfits and cosmetic changes for the characters would be awesome. With the soap shoes and the Monster Hunter tie-in for Frontiers, I assumed there would be more cosmetic changes available for Sonic. Different shoes, gloves, hats, or skins. Think Mario Odyssey and all the fun ways that you can dress up Mario that really don't affect gameplay. Secondly, Chaos Control. With how prominent the Chaos Emeralds were in the story, I was really hoping we'd see a return of one of my favorite abilities. Allowing characters to teleport or stop time is just so cool, but imagine being able to utilize it in gameplay. Once you get your hands on an emerald, you can use fast travel around the map or freeze time briefly during fights to unleash a combo. It would be so satisfying. Fit perfectly with the dynamic anime aesthetic they're using for combat, and it's such an easy way to tie the lore into the gameplay. If they do nothing else, Sega, please do this one. Let me Chaos Control, please. And I think that's everything. I predict the next Sonic game after Frontiers will be Sonic Adventure 3, and, Oh, wait, no, sorry. There's one last thing I need to talk about, and, Yeah, we're gonna need the foil again. This one is a crackpot theory. I recognize that. But by golly, am I excited about it anyway. Alright, Iizuka was asked in an interview about the Super Emeralds, and he said they're currently in a different dimension. When asked if there's any way to become Hypersonic again, he said, "I don't think so." But I don't believe him. Look, the reason Hypersonic was shelved in the 90s was because Sonic Team, and Iizuka specifically, believed that introducing multiple transformations into the franchise would be too much like, quote, a certain Japanese anime. Dragon Ball. They're talking about Dragon Ball. And you know what? That's fair. I'm like 94% sure that Supersonic was a complete ripoff of Super Saiyan, and I can see why. From both a legal and aesthetic perspective, Sega doesn't want that smoke. They don't want to ride the coattails of another franchise. They want to be original. Or so I thought. The Supersonic battles in Frontiers are the most Japanese anime this franchise has ever been. Flying around, glowing gold, throwing massive punches and kicks, beam struggles. Hell, you killed two of the bosses the same way that some of the biggest Dragon Ball villains were destroyed. Sonic flies through Giganto like Kid Goku through King Piccolo, and then he slices Knight down the middle with his blade, just like Trunks did to Frieza. Or how about Sonic just straight up using Ki Blast in his base form? That's exactly what these are. This isn't a I'm so fast thing. He's shooting lasers out of his hands. This is not a valid excuse anymore. So, knowing that, why is now the right time to bring back Hypersonic? Well, Iizuka said the Super Emeralds are currently in a different dimension. He didn't say that they were inaccessible or they don't exist. He said different dimension. In Frontiers, the End was also trapped in his own dimension, created by the Ancients. And the last time we saw the Super Emeralds in canon, wasn't Sonic 3 and Knuckles, it was Sonic Adventure. When we got a flashback to the Master Emerald altar before the Echidnas attacked, it's surrounded by the Super Emeralds. Chaos is there to protect it, which implies to me that the Ancients actually knew about their power. If they sealed the end in his own dimension, what are the odds they were the ones who sealed away the Super Emeralds? And if the next game explores the history of the end and the Ancients, I think we'll be able to find that dimension. Think about it. It's critically important to the story of Frontiers that the Master Emerald called the Chaos Emeralds to Earth. Why call them here if not to power them up and transform them into their true state? The next game, Sonic Adventure 3, will explain the history of the Master and Chaos Emeralds, and by the end, the characters will bring them all together, creating the Super Emeralds, bringing about the return of Hypersonic, who is the only being powerful enough to defeat the true form of the end, the embodiment of cold, dead nothingness. I've done it! I've figured it out! It all makes so much sense! Why couldn't anyone else see that it's so... Sorry about that. I got kind of excited. This video is way too long. I've been thinking of Sonic and only Sonic for weeks now, and I got a little carried away. I should probably go get some sleep or something. What did you think about Sonic Frontiers? Are you excited about the future of the Sonic franchise? Do you buy into my theories, or am I really as insane as the doctors say? Let me know down in those comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell, yada yada. Stay frosty.